we should listen to God even when what's being said seems wrong?
Especially when it seems wrong. If you think you are right about everything, who needs to talk with God? My most powerful messenger is experience, and even this you ignore. Especially this you ignore. Your world would not be in its present condition were you to have simply listened to your experience. The result of your not listening to your experience is that you keep reliving it over and over again. For my purpose will not be thwarted, nor my will be ignored. You will get the message sooner or later. I will not force you to, however. I will never coerce you. For I have given you a free will, the power to do as you choose. And I will never take that away from you, ever. And so I will continue sending you the same messages over and over again throughout the millennia to whatever corner of the universe you occupy. Endlessly will I send you my messages until you have received them and held them close, calling them your own. My messages will come in 100 forms, in 1,000 moments across 1,000,000 years. You cannot miss them if you truly listen. You cannot ignore them once truly heard. Thus will our communication begin in earnest. For in the past, you have only talked to me, praying to me, interceding with me, beseeching me. Yet now can I talk back to you, even as I'm doing here.
How can I know this communication is from God? How do I know this is not my own imagination?
What would be the difference? Do you not see that I could just as easily work through your imagination as anything else? I will bring you the exact right thoughts, words, or feelings at any given moment, suited precisely to the purpose at hand, using one device or several. You will know these words are from me because you, of your own accord, have never spoken so clearly. Had you already spoken so clearly on these questions, you would not be asking them.
To whom does God communicate? Are there special people? Are there special times?
All people are special, and all moments are golden. There's no person and there's no time one more special than another. Many people choose to believe that God communicates in special ways and only with special people. This removes the mass of the people from responsibility for hearing my message, much less receiving it, which is another matter, and allows them to take someone else's word for everything. You don't have to listen to me, for you've already decided that others have heard from me on every subject, and you have them to listen to. By listening to what other people think they heard me say, you don't have to think at all.
Absolutely. We have a responsibility to receive the message ourselves. And with that, I mean, we have a self-responsibility for our own understanding of truth. If we don't take that in our own hands and outsource that understanding to someone or something else, whether that's social ideology or any kind of construction, we lose our power and we start living a truth that is not our own. So we essentially live someone else's life or live a construction of the outside. Well, the other way around, we can live from within. We have to go within to find our own voice, to find our own heart, connect with our bodies, connect with our sense of intuition, and find truth on a deeper level than just mental understanding, but a whole body understanding. It's a feeling. You can have it. I've had it on psychedelics, and psychedelics are a wonderful way of, I see them as a portal into yourself. I found that the psychedelics are also a wonderful portal to God.
This is the biggest reason for most people turning from my messages on a personal level. If you acknowledge that you are receiving my messages directly, then you are responsible for interpreting them. And it's far safer and much easier to accept the interpretation of others, even others who have lived 2,000 years ago, than seek to interpret the message you may very well be receiving in this moment now. Yet I invite you to a new form of communication with God. a two-way communication. In truth, it is you who have invited me, for I have come to you in this form right now in answer to your call.
Why do some people, take Christ for example, seem to hear more of your communication than others?
Because some people are willing to actually listen. They're willing to hear. They're willing to remain open to the communication even when it seems scary or crazy or downright wrong.
We should listen to God even when what's being said seems wrong?
Especially when it seems wrong. If you think you are right about everything, then needs to talk with God. Go ahead and act on all that you know. But notice that you've all been doing that since time began. And look at what shape the world is in. Clearly, you've missed something. Obviously, there's something you don't understand. That which you do understand must seem right to you, because right is a term you use to designate something with which you agree. What you've missed will, therefore, appear at first to be wrong. The only way to move forward on this is to ask yourself, what would happen if everything I thought was wrong was actually right? Every great scientist knows about this. When what a scientist does is not working, a scientist sets aside all of the assumptions and starts over. All great discoveries have been made from a willingness and ability to not be right. And that's what's needed here. You cannot know God until you stop telling yourself that you already know God. You cannot hear God until you stop thinking that you've already heard God. I cannot tell you my truth until you stop telling me yours.
But my truth about God comes from you.
Who said so?
Others.
What others?
Leaders, ministers, rabbis, priests, books, the Bible, for heaven's sake.
Those are not authoritative sources.
They aren't.
No.
Then what is?
Listen to your feelings. Listen to your highest thoughts. Listen to your experience. Whenever any of these differ from what you've been told by your teachers or read in your books, forget the words. Words are the least reliable purveyor of truth.
There is so much I want to say to you, so much I want to ask. I don't know where to begin. For instance, why is it that you do not reveal yourself? If there really is a God and you're it, why do you not reveal yourself in a way we can all understand?
I have done so over and over. I'm doing so again right now.
No, I mean by a method of revelation that is incontrovertible, that cannot be denied.
Such as?
Such as appearing right now before my eyes.
I am doing so right now.
Where?
Everywhere you look.
No, I mean in an incontrovertible way.
What way would that be? In what form or shape would you have me appear?
In the form or shape you actually have.
That would be impossible. For I have no form or shape you understand. I could adopt a form or shape that you could understand. But then everyone would assume that what they have seen is the one and only form and shape of God, rather than a form or shape of God, one of many. People believe I am what they see me as, rather than what they do not see. But I am the great unseen, not what I cause myself to be in any particular moment. In a sense, I am what I am not. It is from the am-notness that I come, and to it I always return. Yet when I come in one particular form or another, a form in which I think people can understand me, people assign me that form forevermore. And should I come in any other form to any other people, the first say I did not appear to the second, because I did not look to the second as I did to the first, nor say the same things. So how could it have been me? You see, then it matters not in what form or in what manner I reveal myself. Whatever manner I choose and whatever form I take, none will be incontrovertible.
But if you did something that would evidence the truth of who you are, beyond doubt or question,
There are still those who would say it is of the devil, or simply someone's imagination, or any cause other than me. If I revealed myself as God Almighty, King of heaven and earth, and moved mountains to prove it, there are those who would say, you must have been Satan. And such is as it should be. For God does not reveal God's self to God's self from or through outward observation, but through inward experience. And when inward experience has revealed God's self, outward observation is not necessary. And if outward observation is necessary, inward experience is not possible. If then revelation is requested, it cannot be had. For the act of asking is a statement that it is not there, that nothing of God is now being revealed. Such a statement produces the experience. For your thought about something is creative and your word is productive, and your thought and your word together are magnificently effective in giving birth to your reality. Therefore shall you experience that God is not now revealed. For if God were, you would not ask God to be.
I want to make a quick note on the many ways of going within oneself to have such an experience of self-realization. It isn't just the regular methods of meditating or yoga. There's many ways to get there. You can get there through pure meditation. You can get there through just yoga. You can get there through psychedelics. So there isn't just one way, but what I found is the best way to practice this is within all things. Yes, meditate, but also eat holistically. When we integrate all those parts of ourself, we are more easily, and we practice meditation, and we have our spiritual practice, we are able to get in touch with that direct experience of ourselves so much easier and so much deeper. And then when you add in psychedelics, the experience is that much more religious. And by religious, I mean divinely profound, revelatory, not just some average hippy-dippy, I went on a trip and I met some elves and all that stuff. No, I'm talking about two completely different experiences. You see, psychedelics can be used as a gateway for that type of experience, for the type of inward experience, but they can also result in having an external experience where you're just influenced by environment because you're so distracted with all the other stuff your mind is projecting into the experience. And while you're in that experience, your thoughts and emotions and your intentions are extra creative. The psychedelics we're not used to having that direct response from our emotions and thoughts and everything, but during psychedelics, it is extremely enhanced. So when you are so a psychedelic experience is also a co-creation with your current level of consciousness. And when you make your life a deeper practice of this, a deeper practice of finding the self within, those experiences become so much deeper. So this is a practice that is holistically integrated, ideally, within your entire life.
Does that mean I cannot ask for anything I want? Are you saying that praying for something actually pushes it away from us?
This is a question which has been asked through the ages and has been answered whenever it has been asked. Yet you have not heard the answer or will not believe it. The question is answered again in today's terms and today's language, thusly. You will not have that for which you ask, nor can you have anything you want. This is because your very request is a statement of lack, and you're saying you want a thing only works to produce that precise experience, wanting in your reality. The correct prayer is therefore never a prayer of supplication, but a prayer of gratitude. When you thank God in advance for that which you choose to experience in your reality, you in effect acknowledge that it is there, in effect. Thankfulness is thus the most powerful statement to God, an affirmation that even before you ask, I have answered. Therefore, never supplicate, appreciate.
But what if I am grateful to God in advance for something and it never shows up? That could lead to disillusionment and bitterness.
Gratitude cannot be used as a tool with which to manipulate God, a device with which to fool the universe. You cannot lie to yourself. Your mind knows the truth of your thoughts. You are saying, thank you, God, for such and such, all the while being very clear that it isn't there in your present reality. You can't expect God to be less clear than you, and so produce it for you. God knows what you know, and what you know is what appears as your reality.
The thanking, being thankful in advance for something that hasn't happened yet, is difficult. For me, the difficult thing is maintaining it throughout the day. Because at the same time, it's not like you should deny what's already here. And we have to undo, to get to the place where we're constantly able to be grateful for the now and what's going to happen in the future. We have to learn how to trust. And to get to that place in the current world we're living in, it's not necessarily easy. So when it's said in the book, it sounds so duh, but in practice, we have to undo a lot of wiring, and we have to change our perspective and become aware of a lot of the garbage that's been programmed in by our past environment that is no longer serving us. And while we go through that garbage of our past and we integrate all those parts of ourselves, and we become aware of all of them, and we become aware of all our shadow, and we integrate all those parts of us, and we work towards it and seek out the direct experiences in different ways that we can by having meditation practices, and I'd recommend psychedelics for that because they just allow you to create that portal into yourself. And when you have built up those experiences and you practice that meditation and you deconstruct the network of unbeneficial things to you, you are able to trust so much more. And when you trust your surroundings and you're not living in a fear-based mentality, you're able to be grateful. And when you're grateful right now, it's so much easier to be grateful for the future. So it sounds very easy in the book, the way he lays it out, but it can be quite a bit of work. And that's okay, you don't have to do this all in one step. And with that said, let's just continue for another chapter.
But how then can I be truly grateful for something I know is not there?
Faith. If you have but the faith of a mustard seed, you shall move mountains. You come to know it is there because I said it is there. Because I said that even before you ask, I shall have answered. Because I said and have said to you in every conceivable way, through every teacher you can name, that whatsoever you shall choose, choosing it in my name, so shall it be.
Yet so many people say that their prayers have gone unanswered.
No prayer, and a prayer is nothing more than a fervent statement of what is so, goes unanswered. Every prayer, every thought, every statement, every feeling is creative. To the degree that it is fervently held as truth, to that degree will it be made manifest in your experience. When it is said that a prayer...
To the degree that you hold it as truth, I think that really implements well with what I said previously. Because when you create these experiences yourself, you're able to believe more and more, build up towards a deeper sense of faith in it. And through psychedelic experiences, personally, I found that there is something even deeper than that. There is a knowing that arises. It's like, I know what is. I know I am. That can only be felt experientially. It's so much deeper than the symbol or the word knowing. And it's not like your average intuition where you're like, oh, I kind of feel. No, it's like, I know, it's strong, it's grounded, it's right there. And I'm sure you can get there through without psychedelics. I've just found that when I've had experiences where that's the result of it. So you have to work on these things constantly to develop that deeper level of belief, because your beliefs, your thoughts, everything you do is a creative act. So create consciously.
It's not been answered. What has in actuality happened is that the most fervently held thought, word, or feeling has become operative. Yet what you must know, and here's the secret, is that always it is the thought behind the thought, what might be called the sponsoring thought, that is the controlling thought. If therefore you beg and supplicate, there seems a much smaller chance that you will experience what you think you are choosing, because the sponsoring thought behind every supplication is that you do not have now what you wish. That sponsoring thought becomes your reality. The only sponsoring thought which could override this thought is the thought held in faith that God will grant whatever is asked without fail. Some people have such faith, very few. The process of prayer becomes much easier when, rather than having to believe that God will always say yes to every request, one understands intuitively that the request itself is not necessary. Then the prayer is a prayer of thanksgiving. It is not a request at all, but a statement of gratitude for what is so.
When you say that a prayer is a statement of what is so, are you saying that God does nothing? That everything which happens after a prayer is a result of the prayer's action?
If you believe that God is some omnipotent being who hears all prayers, says yes to some, no to others, and maybe, but not now, to the rest, you are mistaken. By what rule of thumb would God decide? If you believe that God is the creator and decider of all things in your life, you are mistaken. God is the observer, not the creator. And God stands ready to assist you in living your life, but not in the way you might expect. It is not God's function to create or uncreate the circumstances or conditions of your life. God created you in the image and likeness of God. You have created the rest through the power God has given you. God created the process of life and life itself as you know it. Yet God gave you free choice to do with life as you will. In this sense, your will for you is God's will for you. You are living your life the way you are living your life, and I have no preference in the matter. This is the grand illusion in which you have engaged, that God cares one way or the other what you do. I do not care what you do, and that is hard for you to hear. Yet do you care what your children do when you send them out to play? Is it a matter of consequence to you whether they play tag or hide and seek or pretend? No, it is not. Because you know they are perfectly safe. You have placed them in an environment which you consider friendly and very okay. Of course, you will always hope that they do not hurt themselves. And if they do, you will be right there to help them, heal them, allow them to feel safe again, to be happy again, to go and play again another day. But whether they choose hide and seek or pretend will not matter to you the next day either.
We are so safe. May definitely not feel like it when we're in this world. There's a lot that happens that hurts a lot, and dying is a scary concept. But the book is established. It's reincarnation. So death, really just transition over into more life. And that concept of safety is difficult when we're so afraid of everything that this version of God would claim cannot really, truly, ever completely hurt you.
You would tell them, of course, which games are dangerous to play. But you cannot stop your children from doing dangerous things. Not always, not forever. Not in every moment from now until death. It is the wise parent who knows this. Yet the parent never stops caring about the outcome. It is this dichotomy, not caring deeply about the process, but caring deeply about the result, that comes close to describing the dichotomy of God. Yet God, in a sense, does not even care about the outcome, not the ultimate outcome. This is because the ultimate outcome is assured. And this is the second great illusion of man, that the outcome of life is in doubt. It is this doubt about ultimate outcome that has created your greatest enemy, which is fear. For if you doubt outcome, then you must doubt Creator. You must doubt God. And if you doubt God, you must live in fear and guilt all your life. If you doubt God's intentions, God's ability to produce this ultimate result, then how can you ever relax? How can you ever truly find peace? Yet God has full power to match intentions with results. You cannot and will not believe in this, even though you claim that God is all-powerful. And so you have to create in your imagination a power equal to God, in order that you may find a way for God's will to be thwarted. So you have created in your mythology the being you call devil. You have even imagined a God at war with this being, thinking that God solves problems the way you do. Finally, you have actually imagined that God could lose this war. All of this violates everything you say you know about God, but this doesn't matter. You live your illusion, and thus feel your fear.
Even though there's not necessarily a devil, a lot of what we seem to look at that as is the polar opposite of the best in the world. All the saints, all the most amazing people who are the most loving. There's an equal and opposite energy to that. That is the same thing on the opposite side of the spectrum that allows both expressions to exist. So the mechanism of contrast, and it depends on where you look at it from. So it's relative to your current position or to your perspective. So a true good and bad isn't really there. Demonizing the negative isn't helpful. The negative is just an energy that allows us to experience the positive and grow into that. It's the resistance that helps us to grow into a higher version of ourselves. We need this in a world where we experience duality.
All out of your decision to doubt God. But what if you made a new decision? What then would be the result? I tell you this, you would live as the Buddha did, as Jesus did, as did every saint you have ever idolized. Yet, as with most of these saints, people would not understand you. And when you tried to explain your sense of peace, your joy in life, your inner ecstasy, they would listen to your words but not hear them. They would try to repeat your words, but would add to them. They would wonder how you could have what they cannot find. And then they would grow jealous. Soon jealousy would turn to rage, and in their anger they would try to convince you that it is you who do not understand God. And if they were unsuccessful at tearing you from your joy, they would seek to harm you. So enormous would be their rage. And when you told them it does not matter, that even death cannot interrupt your joy nor change your truth, they would surely kill you. Then, when they saw the peace with which you accepted death, they would call you a saint and love you again. For it is the nature of people to love, then destroy, then love again that which they value most.
But why? Why do we do that?
All human actions are motivated at their deepest level by one of two emotions, fear or love. In truth, there are only two emotions, only two words in the language of the soul. These are the opposite ends of the great polarity which I created when I produced the universe and your world as you know it today. These are the 2 points, the alpha and the omega, which allow the system you call relativity to be. Without these 2 points, without these 2 ideas about things, no other idea could exist. Every human thought and every human action is based in either love or fear. There's no other human motivation, and all other ideas are but derivatives of these 2. They're simply different versions, different twists on the same theme. Think on this deeply, and you will see that it is true. This is what I have called the sponsoring thought. It is either a thought of love or fear. This is the thought behind the thought behind the thought. It is the first thought. It is prime force. It is the raw energy that drives the engine of human experience. And here is how human behavior produces repeat experience after repeat experience. It is why humans love, then destroy, then love again. Always there's the swing from one emotion to the other. Love sponsors fear, sponsors love, sponsors fear. And the reason is found in the first lie. The lie which you hold is the truth about God, that God cannot be trusted, that God's love cannot be depended upon, that God's acceptance of you is conditional, that the ultimate outcome is thus in doubt. For if you cannot depend on God's love to always be there, on whose love can you depend? If God retreats and withdraws when you do not perform properly, will not mere mortals also? And so it is that in the moment you pledge your highest love, you greet your greatest fear. The first thing you worry about after saying, I love you, is whether you'll hear it back. And if you hear it back, then you begin immediately to worry that the love you have just found you will lose. And so all action becomes a reaction, defense against loss, even as you seek to defend yourself against the loss of God. Yet if you knew who you are, that you are the most magnificent, the most remarkable, the most splendid being God has ever created, you would never fear. For who could reject such wondrous magnificence? Not even God could find fault in such a being. But you do not know who you are. And you think you are a great deal less. And where did you get the idea of how much less than magnificent you are? And the only people whose word you would take on everything, from your mother and your father. These are the people who love you the most. Why would they lie to you?
Why would your parents lie to you? Why would anyone lie to you? Because they don't necessarily know better. Everyone's been like, look at history. Like, people have inherited some really crazy bad situations. Subjectively bad, and a lot of people still enjoy those lives. But life's been difficult for a long time, and we fuck with each other. And nobody really knows the full truth or has the full truth. It's just that so many organizations and people, and definitely parents, pretend that they know what's best, that they are so sure to the point where they force, and we get programmed by that. So we know they don't know everything. We know our parents don't know everything. We know our grandparents definitely don't know everything. And there's usually, you can notice the gaps in generational understanding. And there's an evolution there. There's also so much trauma collectively that is creating a kind of programming, a social conditioning. Where how are we supposed to be able to understand all of this when there's so much garbage handed down from us? So let's continue the book.
Yet have they not told you that you are too much of this and not enough of that? Have they not reminded you that you are to be seen and not heard? Have they not scolded you in some of the moments of your greatest exuberance? And did they not encourage you to set aside some of your wildest imagining? These are the messages you've received. And though they do not meet the criteria and are thus not messages from God, they might as well have been. For they have come from the gods of your universe, surely enough. It was your parents who taught you that love is conditional. You have felt their conditions many times, and that is the experience you take into your own love relationships. It is also the experience you bring to me. From this experience, you draw your conclusions about me. Within this framework, you speak your truth. God is a loving God, you say, but if you break his commandments, he will punish you with eternal banishment and everlasting damnation.
Yeah, that's a nice point there. And yeah, there's so little unconditional love in this world. I was very lucky that my mother has a really high degree of unconditional love. And I'm very grateful that I had that experience because I don't see most people having it. Eventually, I do see a lot of people getting it in their life, but it's definitely very often not their parents that are giving it to them. And it's not like the parents there have bad intentions or anything. They have reasons behind why they do what they do with their kids. Like, oh, if I'm just always nice to them, or if I'm always giving them my love and approval, they will never go out and do what I want them to do. I think judgments and fears and ego and wanting to kind of live through. There's so much psychological and ideological stuff going on there. But they intend well. I think it's still motivated originally by love, but the way they go about it is just conditional. The expectation that a child has to be and do exactly what you want it to do, and if it doesn't do so, that you do not love it's just not right.
For have you not experienced the banishment of your own parents? Do you not know the pain of their damnation? How, then, could you imagine it to be any different with me? You have forgotten what it was like to be loved without condition. You do not remember
the experience of the love of God. And so you try to imagine what God's love must be like, based on what you see of love in the world. You have projected the role of parent onto God, and have thus come up with a God who judges and rewards or punishes based on how good he feels about what you've been up to. But this is a simplistic view of God based on your mythology. It has nothing to do with who I am. Having thus created an entire thought system about God based on human experience rather than spiritual truths, you then create an entire reality around love. It is a fear-based reality, rooted in the idea of a fearful, vengeful God. Its sponsoring thought is wrong, but to deny that thought would be to disrupt your whole theology. And though the new theology, which would replace it, would truly be your salvation, you cannot accept it, because the idea of a God who is not to be feared, who will not not judge and who has no cause to punish is simply too magnificent to be embraced within your grandest notion of who and what God is.
That is a beautiful chapter, chapter 14. We've forgotten the love of God, that the experience can be had and is being had. I've had part of it. I think I can definitely go deeper on that one. There's more there. There's always more there in God that is infinite. Right? So, an infinite level of love. He's like, it's beyond imagination. So how deep that goes. This is a very beautiful chapter. This is chapter 14. That's where I'm going to end it for today. Thank you for watching all the way through the end. You can find the link to the playlist in the description, so go and check that out. And I want to wish you a beautifully bright day, week, month, year, life. Grow up.